The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the usual cacophony of alien languages, but today's session carried an undercurrent of malicious glee that made Commander David Chen's jaw tighten. Beside him, Ambassador Emma Rodriguez maintained her diplomatic composure, though he could see her knuckles whitening as she gripped her datapad. For 3 standard years, Earth had endured the Council's condescension. Humanity was the junior species, the primitive upstarts, the hairless apes who barely discovered fire. The insults had been subtle at first, veiled, references to human limitations and developmental challenges. But, as Earth remained diplomatically silent, taking each slight with measured restraint, the Council had grown bolder. Today they had crossed a line. "The human delegation requests permission to address the chamber," Emma said, her voice carrying across the vast amphitheater with crystalline clarity. A ripple of laughter emanated from the Zephyrian section. High Counselor Vexthul, a 7-foot mantis-like creature with compound eyes that gleamed with contempt, raised one of his 4 arms dismissively. "The junior species wishes to speak? How amusing. Very well, but please keep your primitive grunting brief. We have important matters to discuss." More laughter echoed through the chamber. The Caltharian delegation clicked their approval with their chitinous appendages, while the gaseous ethereals pulsed with colors that David recognized as mockery. Emma stood slowly, her 5'4" frame dwarfed by the alien architecture designed to intimidate lesser species. She walked to the central speaking platform with measured steps, David following as her military advisor. "Honorable council members," Emma began, her voice now amplified throughout the chamber. "For 3 years, Earth has listened. We have learned your customs, studied your histories, and respected your wisdom. We came here seeking partnership, not dominance. We offered our friendship, our resources, and our knowledge freely." Yes, Vexthul interrupted with a dismissive wave. "Your friendship and your quaint little technologies. Tell me, Ambassador, what could a species that only recently discovered interstellar travel possibly offer us? Your mathematics are crude, your science primitive, your military—" He paused for dramatic effect, his mandibles clicking in what passed for Zephyrian amusement. "Well, let's just say we've seen your warships, charming metal boxes that would make acceptable target practice." The chamber erupted in laughter. Even the normally stoic titans permitted themselves low rumbles of amusement. David felt his hand instinctively move toward his sidearm, but Emma's slight gesture stopped him. Her expression remained serene, almost peaceful. "I see," Emma said quietly, waiting for the laughter to subside. "Target practice. How interesting that you should mention our military capabilities, High Counselor." Something in her tone made the laughter falter. "You see, there's something we haven't told you about humanity. Something we thought unnecessary to mention, given our hopes for peaceful cooperation." Emma's voice carried further now, reaching every corner of the vast chamber. "We are a young species, this is true. We've only had interstellar travel for 57 years. We've only known about the greater galactic community for 5 years." She paused, letting the numbers sink in. "But in those 57 years since we first left our home system, do you know what we discovered? We found 17 dead civilizations, 17 species that once filled the void between stars with their art, their music, their dreams. The Corvani, who built crystal cities that sang with solar winds. The Threnodi, whose poetry was encoded in gravitational waves. The Melkari, who painted nebulae with living light. The chamber had grown unnaturally quiet, all of them destroyed by the same force. A force that has been systematically exterminating every species that shows potential for rapid advancement. A force that your council has been remarkably unconcerned about." High Counselor Vexthul shifted uncomfortably. "What are you implying, human?" Emma smiled, and for the first time, David saw something in her expression that reminded him why she'd been chosen for this position, despite being one of the youngest ambassadors in human history. "I'm not implying anything, Counselor. I'm stating facts. The force I'm referring to calls itself the Devourers. Perhaps you know them? Large, obsidian-hulled vessels, weapons that turn matter into constituent atoms, a habit of completely sterilizing worlds before moving on." The silence in the chamber was now absolute. "Here's what we learned from studying those 17 dead civilizations. They all had one thing in common. They all trusted the Galactic Council's protection. They all believed that as member species they would be defended against existential threats. Emma walked closer to the Zephyrian delegation, her eyes never leaving Vexthal's compound gaze. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected a Devourer fleet heading toward Council space. 200 vessels, enough to sterilize a dozen worlds. We tracked their trajectory and calculated their arrival time. She paused. They'll be here in 18 hours. Panic began to ripple through the assembled delegates. We sent warnings through proper diplomatic channels, Emma continued. We offered to share our tactical data, our defensive strategies, even our new weapons technologies. Do you know what we received in return? Form 447B. Advisory from non-council species under review for credibility assessment. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates began shouting in dozens of languages. Emma raised her voice above the din. So Earth made a decision. If the council wouldn't accept our help, we'd handle the threat ourselves. After all, we're just primitive humans. What could we possibly accomplish? David stepped forward, activating a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed real-time tactical data from the edge of the system. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all classifications, he said, his military bearing commanding instant attention. 47 minutes ago, the human fleet engaged the Devourer armada at the system's edge. I'm pleased to report that all 200 enemy vessels have been neutralized with 0 human casualties. The hologram showed the aftermath. Debris fields where the supposedly unstoppable Devourers had been, and sleek human vessels. Vessels far more advanced than anything the Council had seen, patrolling the area. Emma returned to the podium as stunned silence reclaimed the chamber. You see, honored Council members, there's something else you should know about humanity. We don't just make friends easily, we remember insults even easier. For 3 years, you've called us primitive. You've mocked our technology, dismissed our capabilities, and treated us like ignorant children. She gestured to the tactical display still floating above them. Those charming metal boxes you mentioned? Each one carries enough firepower to crack a moon. Our crude mathematics predicted the Devourer's arrival to within 37 minutes. Our primitive science developed weapons that make their matter disruptors look like children's toys. Vexthal's voice was barely a whisper. Why didn't you tell us? Emma's smile was razor-sharp. Because you never asked politely. The chamber remained silent as Emma and David prepared to leave. Earth withdraws its application for council membership, Emma announced. We'll be forming our own alliance with species that value partnership over condescension. Any civilization interested in mutual respect and genuine cooperation is welcome to contact us. As they reached the exit, Emma turned back one final time. Oh, and Counselor Vexthal, next time you want to insult someone's military capabilities, you might want to make sure they're not the only thing standing between you and extinction. The massive doors sealed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the silence that followed, the Galactic Council finally understood what it meant when humans stayed quiet. They had been listening, learning, and preparing. And they had very long memories.